This week we'll be talking about PlayStation, Nintendo, and Microsoft not showing for E3. Activision Blizzard points to Last of Us success on HBO as a reason to allow Microsoft purchase to go through. More games have been given the pink slip. And should we be concerned about the PSVR 2 pre-order numbers? All this and more on season 7, episode 5 of Press X Starts Gamers Digest. I'm just gonna do a little silly dance. All right. What is up, everyone? I'm your host, DJ, aka Sexy Bad Choices, aka I can hear myself in my ear, aka cut out that last aka. Go ahead, do it, Marcus. Thanks. Who else is here?
I am Sean MF Ross.
What the MF stand for?
It's not a dragon, it's a dragonfish.
Oh, oh, okay, all right. And last up, we have
Hey everyone, it's me, Avery.
nailed it. If you are watching this live, we greatly appreciate it. Yes, my hair is sticking up like alfalfa from what is that movie?
Little Rascals.
There you go, nailed it. Little Rascals, because we are that old. Okay.
Well, technically they're
Almost forgot.
called our gang. Little Rascals is the modern name for it. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not. Oh, look at that. A wealth of information. All right. Now that you know who we are, Press X Starts Gamers Digest is a video game podcast that condenses the most important gaming news and oh my god. Oh my god. What I'm doing is I'm reading the script, but I'm also thinking back to the old intro. So what I'm going to do is just take a moment, take a breath, release the breath. All right. Press X to Start Gamers Digest is a video game podcast that condenses the most important gaming news from the past week into an hour-long meal just for you. We are live on YouTube. Yes, on YouTube right now. We are live every Sunday, which is today at 3 p.m., which is right now. Hello, YouTube. Don't forget to support us by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell. If you are listening, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or the podcast services you are tuned in on. Yes, my lips are dry. If you want to join in our conversation, you can by joining our Discord at pressx2start.com/discord. Now that we've gotten all that out the way, it is time for us to jump into the gaming news. Avery, do the thing.
Okay. Our first story is from BGC. This is from Andy Robinson. Nintendo and PlayStation will not attend E3 2023. So the ESA in their flagship production E3 has confirmed it is coming back for 2023, a traditional E3 section. In what form it's going to be, most people really don't know. It's being run by Reed Pop, who I believe are responsible for the PAX events. So people are just assuming this is going to be a PAX. But that's all we knew going into it. But uh, it has been reported from various sources that both Nintendo and PlayStation will not be at the event. Xbox has also not going to be at the event. So effectively, all three of the big major platform holders will not be at the event. PlayStation has been in an E3 since 2019. They dipped out a long time ago. Nintendo has been there in some shape or form. And Xbox has been at the events. However, they haven't actually been at the venue. They've been holding their own separate thing, like across the street at the Microsoft Theater. So, what this E3 actually is going to be is up in the air.
Yeah.
That really sucks, 'cause that used to be like, in my mind, a mecca for gamers back in the 90s, late 90s, whatever. And in its current form, we will never get to see, we'll never get to actually go there as we saw it
Exactly.
as younglings.
Right. Yeah, it's just times are changing and E3, you know, from a consumer standpoint has always been, as Sean says, that mecca. But I think from um, the industry standpoint has been just a very, very expensive commercial. And I think now that, given COVID and PlayStation and now Microsoft having to adjust to doing a all virtual showcase, they've
Well, we're
gotten
well,
just
we're, we're not sure if they're all doing all virtual showcases. It's the prevailing theory that they'll continue doing this, but we are quote unquote out of the E3 COVID era. So the idea of us not having live events is no longer health and safety issue.
Right, yeah. I'm more so just looking at it monetarily in terms of like they don't have to pay for the booth space anymore because they can just do it on their YouTube channel. And
They can spend that money on production instead.
yeah, exactly. So it really like this was for me, this was going to be the test in terms of okay, with Repop having this, what's going to happen to E3? Are they going to be able to court PlayStation, who, as Avery said, left like 2000? You said 2019, 2018, 19?
2019.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the question was like, are they going to be able to bring PlayStation back? And the answer is no. So with that being said, yeah, this is going to be a PAX, but the issue is PAX already is PAX, and PAX is well known as PAX. So if with E3 trying to be PAX,
That's a lot of
where's the
semantic
place?
satiation you're doing there.
Yeah, well, I do what I can, but yeah, and I think I'm not sure if you're going to, okay, Avery, take it away. Keep on going. If you jump to this, then you can take it. If not, I will jump to it. Yeah, you're gonna say anything next?
No.
Okay. The thing I was gonna say was Jeff Keighley and Summer Games Fest. So we do know that Jeff Keighley was a part of E3. He left E3 because he didn't like the direction it was going. So now he has his Summer Game Fest thing, and for better or worse, that is doing very well. And a lot of people, I think, in I don't know Twitter space when E3 mentioned this, people were putting Jeff's face in the timeline and talking about how Summer Game Fest won apparently. I think it's in a weird space because if Jeff Keighley got E3, would he abandon Summer Game Fest?
The question is, my the issue I have with Summer Game Fest, and I've said this multiple times, is it's less of a coordinated and structured event in more of a Jeff just putting his name on shit that other people are doing and just calling it Summer Game Fest as a coordinated thing. And
Yeah.
my question is, if Jeff got E3, would E3 just be what Summer Game Fest is, or will it be a coordinated? Let's focus all of our marketing power into this 1 week instead of let's have everyone, even the smallest people, do hour-long showcases for things they shouldn't be doing.
That's a good point. Like now I think about it, I think the focus should probably be on opening night live versus Summer Game Fest, because that is that one show that has like the quote unquote biggest hits or whatever the marketing terms are. But that gets into a weird space because Jeff Keighley, in this weird the alternative universe, Jeff Keighley will have E3, Summer Game Fest, and then opening night live.
And then Game Awards.
And then Game Awards. So he would pretty much dominate that space, but between E3 and opening night live, like that's just we're gonna see the same games at both places.
Well, that's another one of my big issues with the entire Jeff Keighley machine is that you can only put out so much content, especially now that publishers and creators are more empowered to put themselves out. And then he's also trying to make a commercial product and not a marketing product. And so what ends up happening is you get a 2.5-hour Gamescom conference where most of the games are from one publisher. There are a few real big surprises, and it just feels bloated. And then you get to our like to circle everything back to like the core conceit about E3 and stuff. I am disappointed in the fall of E3. I think it's better in the digital age for publishers to be doing their own things, and we've been getting a lot of good content from that. But I do think the industry in itself hasn't figured out how to deal with the lack of E3, and Jeff Keighley hasn't really helped in that manner in terms of like I'm not gonna. Jeff does a great job. It's just I don't necessarily think
you're not a fan of it.
Summer Game Fest is the best product it can be. But rolling it back, as far as I can tell, E3 will still exist. It will be very PAX-like, which will be more fan focused than actual like journalist focused, which is good for people like us because while we always hope to go to E3, the chances of us going to an E3, unless we win some insane contest or becoming part of a media and then we're just working there, are very slim. It was not open to the public often. Like there were like a couple of times that often. So this is going to be the best chance to get to an E3. And then games will still be there. Publishers will still be there. We just won't have the big hits from the big three publishers. But that's ignoring the other publishers out there who may or may not bring their content there and do stuff there. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what E3 turns out to be.
That's
okay.
a solid point.
Yeah. Our next story is from PC Gamer, and this is from Andy Chalk. Activision Blizzard exec says The Last of Us success on HBO proves the Microsoft buyout should go through. So I want to preface this by saying that the person responsible for this is Lulu Cheng. She's the chief communications officer at Activision Blizzard. So she is their, I guess, for lack of a better term, their PR mouthpiece. I don't want to discredit her work, and all that type of stuff. But if you look into her track record as a mouthpiece for Activision Blizzard, it is not very stellar. So take all she says with a grain of salt. Ultimately, she opens up this. I saw this pop off in the timeline in real time. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. She starts off like there was a tweet by Kyle McLaughlin that says hashtag Last of Us on HBO continues to prove that it can be the greatest video game to TV adaptation ever. I'm in awe. This is about the third episode. She opens her tweets with, "Hi at FTC. Did you catch last night's episode of The Last of Us? It was incredible. No wonder the show is breaking records. It's a true blockbuster, watched by tens of millions. If you haven't already, you should check it out. You may be in particular interested in the fact that, so far, okay tweet." And then it gets into her diatribe. The Last of Us is produced by Sony Pictures Television and PlayStation Productions. It's based on a best-selling video game produced by a Sony-owned studio and published by Sony as a PlayStation exclusive. Why does this matter? And then she goes in to talk. Then she just continues.
I agree. I'm listening. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm gonna keep going because I think it's funnier to hear her exact thoughts. The FTC has opposed the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal on the grounds that Microsoft could suppress competition from rival consoles by leveraging Activision games. It sounds like there's some worry that Sony's position as market leader could be jeopardized by this deal, but there's no concern there's no cause for concern. Sony has unrivaled war chest of IP, not just in gaming, but in TV, movies, and music, which can be developed into games or market existing games. Case in point, the TV show The Last of Us is already generating renewed interest in that game. Sony's talent and IP across gaming, TV, and movies and music are formidable and truly impressive. It's no wonder they also continue to dominate as the market leader for consoles. In gaming, Sony is the first of us, and they will be just fine without the FTC's protection.
What?
Sony's the first of us? Yo, somebody put that on the shirt.
Bars. Ma'am. What? That's not our fault that Halo TV show is trash. Why didn't y'all make a Gears TV show when it was?
She doesn't work for Microsoft.
Hot, like
she does. First of all, she doesn't work for Microsoft as of yet. So
yeah.
But
why didn't Activision Blizzard make a movie or a TV
they
adaptation
did.
of the
It's called the Warcraft movie.
Oh yeah.
There was no war in Ba Sing Se. I don't know, man. This is disingenuous.
I mean, like, you're pulling at straws. Like you're doing all that you can to relate something like The Last of Us on HBO as to why FTC should allow the purchase of Activision Blizzard to Microsoft. And it's like
there are Look at you.
I was just gonna say, what's happening is we're witnessing PlayStation essentially bear the fruit that they spent time watering the years past. Like,
which has been my point. Which has been my ultimate criticism with a lot of the Activision Blizzard, Microsoft acquisitions as of late. For every Obsidian they pick up or
Rare.
Yeah, well, that's not even true because they are publishing, they're pushing all of Rare's IP. That's all I'm saying is I really wish, especially in an era where Hi-Fi Rush is a game now that exists, that Microsoft would focus on that type of IP proliferation because Sony had that war chest, and we talked about this all the time. Because during the 360 era, when you were peddling the same 3 games and ad nauseum, they, to their failure, put out game after game after game after game and encouraged their studios to keep making games. And now they're reaping what they sow, and Microsoft is sort of struggling. We'll get to a couple stories after the fact about what is going on. But yeah, I think in all the arguments for the pro Activision Blizzard Microsoft deal, this is one of the most disingenuous and, once again, backhanded compliment, which is what happens in a lot of these things where they're like, Microsoft, we can't, you have to let us do this. We don't have any good games. That is what, like, look at how good Sony's games are. We can't do that. Let us buy this. There's like, it's weird. It's weird. But yeah, I brought this story up because it's a really funny story, and this woman needs to be taking the task for this very disingenuous statement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Our next series of stories are a cornucopia of stories that all resolve around the exact same point. So, let me see. Let me get all my shit together. Our first story from VGC: Xbox shooter CrossfireX is being shut down, including its single-player mode. Our next story, this is from Kotaku.com. Yet another online game is shutting down. Devs promise private server PC version. This is for Knockout City. Followed by this story from VGC: Back 4 Blood developer announces it's ending development. Followed by this story from IGN. Secret single-player Titanfall game reportedly canceled by EA, which is in tandem with this story from Kotaku.com. EA Apex Legends Mobile shutting down after only 8 months. Battlefield Mobile canceled. That's from Kotaku. And this final story: Epic kills Battle Royale game less than 6 months after release. This is from Kotaku, and this is talking about Rumbleverse. So, the common denominator between all of these games is they are all semi-successful to okay games as a service, live service, online multiplayer games, and they are all being shut down they're all being effectively shut down.
A year roughly of them coming out.
Yeah.
Right.
You're being very generous with CrossfireX, I will say.
To be fair, Crossfire is a very popular franchise overseas.
Yeah. The mobile,
well, this is
right?
America. No,
I think it's a console game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a PC. My bad.
PC. Okay, yeah.
So the issue with these is, unfortunately, like even CrossfireX, like a single player. In general, you want to stay away from games that need to be played online, like if they must be played online, unless it's some juggernaut like a Call of Duty or Apex, of course. Why do you need to be online to play a single player mode? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, to Crossfire's defense, the game is a multiplayer mode. The team at Crossfire had Remedy make a single player mode to the game when they sold it in America. So it was always a multiplayer game. There was just a single player mode added onto it.
When you say single player, like, it's just not co-op, but you're still
It's a
playing
campaign.
online against?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, it's just a campaign. A traditional shooter campaign.
Alright.
Yeah. So this is just the reverse of, like, I don't know, say Uncharted got canceled, so the single player is gone, but also that multiplayer element is also gone. But this is just reverse, where the multiplayer element's gone, but the single player element is also gone because it's connected to the whole game itself.
I shouldn't have to be online to play a game, and I think, and this is probably off base, but this is why a lot of people had pushback against the original Xbox One when they wanted mandatory, online.
Yeah.
Your shit just had to be connected or you couldn't play. I think you had a mandatory check-in. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's trash, man.
Yeah, so these are all multiplayer games. So it's hard to parse why all of this is being shut down. You could easily say, "Oh, we're going through a recession," so a lot of these big companies are tightening the wallets. You could
Yeah.
also say that even when you say that, there are other online multiplayer games that aren't being shut down, so there has to be more factors. There could be their individual popularity, which lets you know that you can't just be an okay games as a service. You kind of have to be a Fortnite and print money to like not be a problem. And then what is the actual parameters for success for games as a service and all that? There's a lot of things that you could sit here and like dissect and try to figure out. I don't have a fundamental understanding. I unfortunately wasn't in the ecosystem for any of these games, so I can't even tell
Yeah.
you like how their communities are dealing with this. It's super unfortunate, and this gets to Sean's earlier point about online only games. Is that these games are gone, and that means they're gone. There's like outside of Knockout City, where the devs are
Yeah.
probably saying we're going to bring dedicated service to that, so you can play in perpetuity with people who have the game.
Kudos to them.
To only the PC version though.
Well, yeah,
So just to
yeah,
make that clear.
yeah.
Oh
Because
wow, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because someone has to pay for these servers. That
Nah, it used to be back in the day, playing like PS2 online and Dreamcast online. It was peer to peer. Somebody hosted the fucking game. It's not impossible to code that into the shit.
I think, from what I can tell, for most of these franchises, is that to do that is going to require more resources than what they're willing to do and
Yeah.
cut out for. And so most of these companies are just going to cut and run on all of these games because there's not much value to extract after the fact. And or most of these companies haven't shut down. They're just moving to new projects. So it's like, yeah.
So
It
just to jump back to what Avery said in terms of the list of potential things that could have been the reasons for these shutdowns, I think it's just a mixture of everything, and the fundamental reasoning being everyone's just tightening their belts right now. Like we've seen the layoffs, now we're seeing the game shut down. We don't know if the layoffs are because of the game shutdown or if the game shutdown is affecting the layoff. Like everything is just mixed up and muddled right now, but it is just an unfortunate thing to see all of these live service games go down kind of at once. But
And
I think
it was a culling week.
yes, yeah, exactly.
I heard when Marvel's Avengers went down, I heard someone make a joke about Knockout City. How no, when Rumbleverse went down, because Rumbleverse
Yeah.
we know Rumbleverse was going to be canceled like a week and ahead. That shit leaked, and so people were like wondering, oh, if Rumbleverse is going to shut down, what's going on with Knockout City? And literally the next day, Knockout City said, oh, we're shutting down as well.
Yep.
catching strays. What about them?
I mean, like I think it does go back to the ecosystem and how much money these individual games, minus the Apex, the was it Titanfall Legends
Yeah,
thing?
that's the only thing that's sort of an outlier, and that it was a single
Yeah.
player game. From what I
Right.
can tell, it was a single player game that was being made within Respawn. But like, if you look at Respawn's output, they are currently making two. They're currently in the midst of an ongoing live service games service that requires a tremendous amount of attention. They're also making a AAA game that also requires a tremendous amount of attention. I think there's an even smaller team in there making smaller projects and things like that. I think from a company standpoint, their bandwidth was stretched. And then from what I remember from learning about this game years ago when this shit that was sort of leaked that this is what they were sort of working on, like the original person who was making on this game left Respawn ages ago. So like, it was operating without a known leadership for a while now, and this is just them being like, probably EA like, we can focus the resources here on better things, like I don't know, Apex.
Which makes sense. I mean, if that's pulling all the money in right now, so go ahead and put the resources to that. Yeah, I mean, I think the silver lining in all this is that these developers will still be around. Like, hopefully, not all of them got caught in the layoffs, so it's a potential that we could see new and interesting products in the future that comes from these people now that they have to jump to different projects.
The only addendum I have about this is this all happening in like dominoes right next to each other makes me very curious at the planned 10 live service games that PlayStation is planning in the next 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely. I really hope that PlayStation is looking at this and thinking like, oh, okay, so our games, they can't miss. They cannot miss. And
Or if they miss, that is okay.
True.
Yeah.
And that they will still be supported. Yeah.
I hope they don't have extreme expectations like when was a Square owned Tomb Raider at one
Yes.
point. Yeah, when it sold a couple million, but it still wasn't enough.
That and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, it's one of it's one of those things where like I've been, while I am a critic of Game Pass, I think one of the things Game Pass does is it allows you to fake multiplayer numbers and multiplayer engagement, because there is absolutely no barrier to entry for anybody to get in, and I'm not sure PlayStation $70 games is willing to take a loss on their work and not charge a premium for that. They haven't proved that they're not willing to charge a premium for that. I'll be surprised if they are, and because like the key for all these games surviving is getting people in, and we are no longer in the age where multiplayer only games as a service that you charge for are actually successful. Hell, even Destiny is now a free to play game.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, before we jump into the PSVR 2 pre-order numbers, hey, listener, do us a solid, please. Like this video if you are watching us. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We greatly need your support because your support will keep us going. I say this every time, and I mean it every time. If you are listening, please pause the podcast and leave a review. We'd also appreciate that as well. If you want to join our Discord, you can at pressx2start.com/Discord. That will take you right where you need to go to our Discord. After you do all that, give yourself a high five because you're awesome. Keep being awesome. All right, let's get back into the news.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to check something. Yeah. So our next story, this comes from Bloomberg.com. This is from the ever-present. Well, actually, this is not. Wow, I assumed it was Jason, but it's not. It's from Takashi Mochizuki. Sony slashes PlayStation VR 2 headset output after pre-order disappointment. So the news came in on the pre-orders for the PlayStation VR 2, the $500 headset that Sony is peddling as a successor to the successful PlayStation VR 1. And the numbers apparently of the pre-orders that they achieved aren't good, and they're changing their internal forecast dramatically. I think they originally projected like somewhere around 2 million over the first year of like no, 2 million head. Yeah, they had 2 million. They were preparing 2 million headset for the games for its first quarter, and I think they plan to have like by next year have around 2 million sold. But now they're slashed that apparently have slashed that tremendously, and I think they're now expecting somewhere around 1 million or 1.5. And PlayStation has come out. This is a yeah. This is from This is from IGN. This is from Anthony Wood. Sony denies reports of PlayStation VR 2 production being slashed. Sony responded in one of those rare pieces of responding to rumors from a company. Sony responded and say we categorically denying this. The assertion is Sony has never released any of these numbers from a publicly. So there's really nothing.
Getting this from
Yeah. Well, yeah. So like they are saying, where are you getting this information? We had never reported this, so we're not going to put any validity to this. But I sort of trust Bloomberg to have the right track on what this means.
Yeah.
They were the ones to report on this, though. It was a web page that reported a few false things on Nintendo and Microsoft, and both of those companies have also refuted what this leaker has said before.
Oh.
So Bloomberg more than likely got this from the same source that everybody did, because this story spread like wildfire.
I don't. I mean, here's the thing. After reading Bloomberg stories for the last year and a half and understanding how, especially Jason Schreier as a reporter works, there is no way they got this information from a website leak and didn't do their own actual reporting.
Yeah, double check it.
Yeah. Especially yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, you continue, DJ.
Oh no, I mean, if this is true or not true, this is still just this is not what PlayStation needs right now, especially at the heels of the PSVR 2 launch. Like for it to be in Bloomberg, especially, is like because Bloomberg is not gaming
It's
focused.
reputable.
Yeah, like that it really sucks. Like and the fact that they had to come out and be like, hey, look, whoa, this is not true. This is not true. Like that's especially like
I don't think
you're like,
so.
wait,
I think it's
you don't
more of
think
a
so?
thing where it'll sell. Maybe not in the numbers that they're expecting, but it'll sell well. This is a thing where it's expensive as hell, and people have to try this shit first before wanting something. They have to
I
see the
I
collapse.
There's another story I want to bring up to this, but
But
I think the PSVR 2, there is a 50% chance it will be a success. And by 2025, whether we will still be talking about this as an actual thing. I
yeah,
think Sony has done a pretty good job of building a, I guess, goodwill for it, but it's still, I think personally, very poorly marketed. They've done absolutely no marketing for it as they're currently in the midst of a big PS5 marketing scheme. They've put no resources really into this from a
just put out an ad for it for the PSVR 2.
They
okay,
put out an
cool.
ad for it.
Yeah,
Cool beans. They just put out an ad for the PSVR 2 like in a couple of weeks when it's
two
before it's
weeks
coming
away.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that. No. And then the game library is okay. There are a lot of good games on it, but the PSVR 2 is suffering from the fact that it's not backwards compatible. So a lot of these games are just old games that are not being brought on it. And then there is the watching Sony for the last 10 years over secondary pieces of hardware. What is their support going to be for this? We already know from the grapevine, like even the team who made Squanch Games, the team who made Silver Side of the Worlds, they're like, oh yeah, we're not making VR games anymore. PlayStation, none of their internal studios outside of the team who's making Horizon are making VR games or are putting VR support in all of their games. So there's like nothing from a first party standpoint to look up to. Like even the team who made the London Heist game, forgot what that's
what?
called. No, Blood and
London
Truth.
Studios.
Yeah, Blood and Truth. Their next game is not a VR game; it's a fantasy multiplayer co-op experience thing. So it's like,
So, uh, since we're on London Studios, I have a very like um inception where I'm pulling in pieces, pulling into my brain and doing the dream rendering. So this goes to the PlayStation ad that they ran where they had at the end of it, they're like, oh, there's a giant Kratos axe in front of somewhere in London. And then London Studios like, oh, we found it. What do you think that has? Do you think that has anything to do
no,
with
I
anything?
think that was them being in
Just
London, being
guerrilla
like,
marketing.
"Here's this cool marketing PlayStation."
Yeah.
I posted that ad in the chat because I thought it was
Yeah.
super cool. I don't think there's anything involved in that.
Okay.
Somebody found Mjolnir in India. Was it?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
Okay.
pull it up and share with y'all. But yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think that I think that here's the second story I brought up, and this is why I have more credence in this not being successful.
Wait, real
Facebook's
quick. Well, the thing that I was pointing to was, or the thing that I was like guessing was, oh, maybe London Studio might be making a God of War VR game. Like that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, well, if they found that, like, what's the importance of them finding this thing? Like, PlayStation's not just gonna do random stuff like that. So it's like, oh, they must be making some kind of title for it. Oh, maybe they're making a God of War VR game.
we
But
won't
then,
know for
but
a
then
while.
when I took another step past that, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, what is God of War VR? Like, I wouldn't know what that would even be like. So, but yeah, that was it. That's all.
I think you drank too much of the marketing goop. Like they're like no.
It was too much sugar.
London studio went to see it because they're based in London and this is a cool PR thing for them to show their PlayStation family love, not because
That's true.
like
That's true.
like if like another like if this was it's weird. I get what you're saying, but yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
seeing much first party support for this from PlayStation. And then the second story I wanted to bring up, this is from Zach Swice from Kotaku.com. Facebook's VR division lost 13.72 billion in 2022. Facebook owns the market share on VR with the Meta consoles, and a lot of this goes into the Meta VR Worlds bullshit. But if the company who's leading the charge is not successful with VR, and PlayStation is now not even selling the most convenient piece of hardware, then I am no longer as hopeful of the success of this platform.
Again, that was 13 billion, not million, billion dollars. That is like that has to break Mark Zuckerberg's like robot face just a little bit. Like that
Yeah.
is insane.
Apparently,
I mean, no, they made 32.1 billion in revenue total for Meta, but this is how much they lost on VR.
VR. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, okay. We're fine.
Apparently, Gran Turismo 7 was built from day one for VR. And what I was just thinking, would be nice is you know how they used to pay developers for extra features or extra stuff, like back when Xbox used to pay Activision for more Call of Duty stuff, or vice versa for PlayStation. What if they built GTA 6 with a VR mode? I mean, they already have first person mode in GTA 5.
That's true. That would be that. Hey, that would be a huge selling point. Like that would probably that announcement alone would
It's like,
probably
no,
get a lot of
no.
people interested.
It's a cool idea, but if you named anyone else but Rockstar, I would have been like, that makes a lot of that. I could see that happening, but it's like it's Rockstar who lost a lot of their source code for this game and is now spending money and like, are you going to build a VR for this game when
build something
VR VR might not be like viable
in the
in
future.
in the future when your thing is coming out?
Oh, that would suck. Oh
On
man.
PlayStation, and if I'm PlayStation personally, I'm not spending money on extra. The amount of money I'd have to spend to burn to make Rockstar make an entire VR division to make this work. I'm like, maybe we could spend that on acquisitions and dealing with and funding our other IPs. I have big PlayStation Vita energy with this thing, where it's gonna come out. We're all gonna be like, oh man, this is really great. And then slowly but surely, it's just going to be fall into like obscurity, and then we're just going to be 10 years later being like, oh man, remember how good the Vita was? Remember how great it was? I wonder why it didn't work out.
Yeah. I
It's a wait and see. It's a chicken and egg thing. Is the market there? Are there games there? Is the market there?
I think the market. I think the market is there, and the VR audience is more than willing to like shell out for games.
spend the money. Yeah.
But it's like it's a twofold street of okay, the VR headset's like $500. Okay, you also need to have the $500 console to play it. So it's like the barrier to entry, especially when Meta has put out the Meta Quest 2, which is a very easy to use non-wired headset. So like the success to get to Sean's point about chicken and the egg, it's like the chicken and the egg of this is games. If there is a solid stream of games of to the quality of a Half-Life Alyx or a Horizon Call of the Mountain, then I think PlayStation VR 2 will do fine. But if it's like not that, and it's just like every month or so we're like fiending for a good game to play on this thing, it's like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah. Because like even right now, the system, the quote unquote system seller is Horizon Call of the Mountain.
Yeah.
But like we don't know. Like it would be one thing if when PlayStation did that, like, oh, these are the 30 games that are coming to PSVR within the launch window, or whatever, and they were like, oh, we're also developing another Astrobot. Like that would be like cool to know, like, okay,
They should have
Astrobot
had
coming in
that.
the future.
Yeah, to that point, when they said that here's a big, in the launch window, which they thankfully gave a month. These are all the games you're expecting. They also should have, like, once again, this should have been all a showcase, or at least a state of play. Like, here are the 30 games, and then also we have these in development for VR to at least know that it's being supported in the future.
Right.
Yeah,
And
if
it's
not
scary.
Astrobot, then at least another demo disc like they did for the first one. They released, I think, like 2 or 3 tech demo disc type things for it.
Right.
Hopefully they come out with something like that. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's the hope. That's the hope that this actually gets supported and does better than the PSVR.
Mhm.
We'll just have to see. All right. What's next, Avery?
Okay, our final story links back to a conversation we were having about I can't. Yeah, well, it leads back to an earlier conversation we were having. So this story is from Bloomberg.com. This is from Jason Schreier. Microsoft studio behind Halo faces a reboot on years of turmoil. So when all the 343 shit was happening, Jason Schreier did his investigative journalism, and with Bloomberg came out and gave us a little expose of what was actually going on at 343 and why all of this has popped off the way it does. And they sort of paint a picture of what's going on with either 343's management or the Microsoft upper management who's controlling 343, because all these reports say that after they promised that Halo Infinite was going to be the 10-year platform for Halo, and they had planned many more stories to be involved in this franchise from within, using it as a vehicle, that apparently the teams weren't working on Halo 5, Halo Infinite. They were making new Halo game prototypes and playing with Unreal and not actually working on Halo Infinite single player. And like, if you look at the multiplayer for that game and sort of how anemic it was, I don't understand how this train of events happened with Halo.
Management.
I like my thing. Well, I don't like. Yes, it's obviously a management issue, but it's one of those things where like, where is the problem lie? Because like, I want to believe the upper, I the upper management, the management of the management of Xbox and Microsoft have been very bullish on how they feel about Halo, how they want to make it right, all these things. But then you look at the actual developers making the game, and you see none of this. So I don't know where the disconnect is from what they see and what we see, and who's all responsible for how this fell apart.
Right. It very much seems like there was just bad communication between the Microsoft, PR branch talking about, oh yeah, like, we're gonna Xbox or Halo is going to do well. We're gonna make sure it works. We're gonna support and X, Y, and Z, and then like in the studios, just monkeys on fire. Like it's it's so it's wild, it's shocking, but then I think like, oh yeah, like Xbox also let go people from Coalition. Like they're what number 3 Xbox title. And it's just like, what what is actually happening in these studios? And it's what what's made clear with this, and I'm also speculating, but what's made clear with this is that Xbox is growing at a at a rapid pace to try to keep up with PlayStation, but not understanding the
Why they're
balance
succeeding.
of, yeah, not even why they're succeeding, but just like the balance of actually supporting their studios.
I'm 100% in mind with you. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that they ballooned so big with all the talent they've acquired and all the individual things that they haven't really done the I guess triage or like work to integrate and set goals and plans and support their studios. So it just sort of feels sort of aimless. And then I don't want to. This is just me being negative about Game Pass. I think the sort of effects of Game Pass is that like there's sort of this, as a subscription service, and what it really exists on is a quantity over quality sort of a situation. And that's mean when I say that, I don't actually mean anything disparaging. I'm just meaning the terms of this is how subscription services work, is that they just need content out. So they're sort of like, as long as these studios are working, I don't know. It sucks. It truly sucks. If anything came out of this, we know that they are 343 is still working on Halo going forward. They are abandoning the Subspace engine, which is the engine they've been using to make Halo, which apparently was not good for Halo Infinite.
Hmm.
And they're divesting all of their influence into Project Tatanka, which is the creative assembly led, certain affinity led BR for Halo. Which I mean, Godspeed to you. If Halo Infinite couldn't succeed as a games as a service shooter in this market, I don't know how big of an effect the Halo brand will do for a BR. And that's, as someone who plays a lot of one of the more popular BRs, don't necessarily know. I can't, like, a lot of Halo people are like, oh, a Halo VR will fucking be gas. It's going to instantly be one of the best things in the world. And I just sat here and watched Halo Infinite have one of the best launches of all time, and then quickly fall into, oh, this is a game that is middle, not, it's failing on metrics of success that it's supposedly set out for itself.
Right. I think to get at what you're talking about with Halo and its BR, I think what they should probably do is do a BR, but also do a escape Tarkov mode, because I think the escape Tarkov
DMZ is
mode,
hot.
yeah, like I think that is a thing that will probably start to pick up more steam in the future.
Yeah.
So,
I
what do
think
you
if
think?
they, I think doing a BR is already late. I also think them doing Escape from Tarkov Light is also going to be a bit
Late.
late.
Mm.
I
You
think
think so? I mean, because
I
the rumors is that Destiny or Bungie's supposed to be doing something, and that,
yeah, and I have enough trust in Bungie as a team to do something, especially if it's probably going to be console focused and be like the
yeah,
first of its time focused on that. Meanwhile, one of my criticisms for the Activision DMZ, I haven't played it. I only know from cursed things, is that comparing it to the other uh, uh, uh,
Tarkov.
Tarkov lights,
Yeah.
that it
Oh, okay.
focuses so much on the Call of Duty of it all to being a more palatable Call of Duty thing that it loses some of the actual, like, what
Elements.
makes those games so, like, intense and why people love it. And like I
Yeah.
feel like if you're coming into this trying to make a Halo Tarkov, you're going to try and put as much Halo into this game, and you might lose enough of the Tarkov. And then I'm keeping it a buck. That's a 3 to 4 thing out, and in that time period, I think
That's
if
that. I mean, like that's
they
definitely, yeah. You're right in
that
terms of like the timeline for it, but
yeah
for
that
Halo to put out a BR right now, it is just like, oh, you guys are
yeah
shooting like 3 years in the past, like,
yeah. I feel like they'll fall into a Ubisoft problem where, like, you're chasing a trend that is already passed up. I mean, it's
right?
and like my other thing is, like, there's not really loot in Halo as a thing.
That, yeah, yeah,
So it's like them having to essentially, this isn't like DMZ where they literally just took the Warzone assets and made a Tarkov game from it. This is a we need to build an entirely new frame, and then we have to build an entirely new worldscape, which isn't really Halo for it to work, because, like, outside of New Mombasa and, like, Halo 2, you're not really fighting in cities in
yeah,
Halo. You're fighting in big like alien space constructs. It's the whole different experience.
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good point too. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I'm along the same lines of you in terms of
They
I
boxed
just
themselves
don't.
into a corner.
Yeah, like,
They fumbled the bag.
yeah, and I go back to the I don't know who it was, but the guy was like, "Yeah, Halo's not gonna have a BR. Like, Halo doesn't need a BR," and it's just like,
The only BR that we have is Battle Rifle. That was one of
there
the
you
Halo
go. Yeah,
producers.
yeah,
Yeah, Halo fumbled the
yeah.
bag. They did, and this is proven quite at this point. They did, I think, the bad move of splitting their multiplayer from their single player, and instead
Mhm.
of and they didn't have a strong content roadmap, and then it just and then they just didn't understand games of service. So, like, I'm not confident right now. I think we won't, if 343 is getting another go at it, we won't see another mainline Halo game from them for another 3 to 4 years. If they're not trying to pick up the pieces from Infinite.
Xbox.
So
Right.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's a real shame. Halo used to be one of my favorite shooters, and
Same here.
it's it's a shame. So yeah, that's
It's
all the
just
news.
it's sad to see it fall so low right now.
It's also bad to have called it. Like, I would have loved to have been wrong.
No. All right. Well, that is the gaming news. Before we wrap this up, Avery has been playing a game about being in a space filled with the dead. The dead. Dead Space.
You're
Well,
horrible at
remake.
it.
Dead Space remake. You see how I nailed that? Should have did something with the remake. Anyways, Avery, You've been playing Dead Space remake. How's it been?
Yeah. So as of the let me get my exact date correct. So as of Saturday, February the 4th, I beat it. It took me about since the game came out, or so like about a week and a half and about 10 to 12 hours over that period of time to complete the entire game. I think this is fundamentally one of the best remakes I've ever played. I think this actually might
Wow.
be my favorite remake I've ever played. Uh,
Really?
I think let's take a step back and talk about the other remakes I played. Like
The
there's
original developer said they did this one a solid. Like this is
Yeah.
wow.
it's
Even compared to Blue Point's stuff.
well, like, here's the thing. The Demon Souls is a coat of paint. They changed nothing. The coat of paint.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Shadow of the Colossus, it's a coat of paint. They didn't really change anything. It's a coat of paint.
Yeah.
Last of Us
Yeah.
Part 2, some minor technical changes, but ultimately it's a coat of paint. This is a fundamental RE2 and RE3. Those are reimaginings more than they are remakes, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
This 100% feels like the original Dead Space, but being an entirely new experience that like I have no real frame of reference for situations. Like the biggest thing is that they've added that's like fundamentally different is that there's no longer levels in this game. Before, like you would you end a chapter, it would cut and you go to a new chapter, and then there's no real backtracking. Now the Ishimura is an entirely 3D space that you can explore at your leisure. You can go from the beginning of the ship to the end of the ship at any point you really want in the game if you've already unlocked that area of the game. They and they get yeah, and they've also done the God of War One Earth situation where now the camera is always on Isaac's back, and in the game now has cutscenes now, and now the cuts and like yeah.
Wasn't it like that for 2 though? Dead Space
I was-
2, where it's always on his back?
They didn't. They were. I'd have to go back and play Dead Space 2 again, but I don't remember much if Dead Space 2 is a single shot. But in this one, it stands out a lot because there are actual cutscenes in this game. And there really weren't cutscenes in Dead Space 1.
Oh, I see. So even the cutscene, the camera is on.
Yeah, they're doing it around the world. Like even the cutscene
That's
is
pretty cool.
always on Isaac's back. They the choice to make Isaac an actual character now and not a voiceless NPC is fantastic. I love this Isaac Clarke. He's fundamentally like Isaac Clarke is one of the OG goats of the PS3 generation of a protagonist, and it's so good to see him here back again. And they've done so much to actually reinforce the idea that he is an engineer, and and how much of his abilities and skills fundamentally go into that ability to engineer. All the story changes that they've made are fantastic. There's like a twist at the end of the original Dead Space that's really good, and they somehow taken that twist and twisted it again in this game to even be even better twist.
Interesting.
All the
I'm gonna play it.
all the side characters who were all the side characters in the original game were sort of just vessels for like moving the story forward. Now they're all fundamentally interesting characters. Oh yeah, fundamentally interesting characters that you really feel with, including one of the characters who has like a big turn towards the end of the game and becomes super villainous. And now you play this game that's like, oh, I get where this character's coming from. They're very sympathetic. Like I genuinely really love this Dead Space. And after hating my time in Callisto Protocol, it was like a breath of fresh air to play this game and like have the old Dead Space muscle memory work out. Like, oh, I walked into this room and there's a bunch of dead bodies here. I'm gonna spend the next 5 minutes destroying every dead body in here. So when the eventual necromorph thing comes in to rest everything, it can't. That was one of my things that annoyed me the shit in the Callisto Protocol. You walk around and see a bunch of dead bodies, and I'm like, I can't really kill them. You can't do anything to them. They're just part of the environment. Like it's not satisfying.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rule in Dead Space was if you didn't kill it, it's not dead.
Yeah. I continued my I played Dead Space 2 the most of any Dead Space, but this is and I still love Dead Space 2. I think this is better than Dead Space 2.
Okay.
in terms of like an entire package. I'd be curious to see what this team would do with a remake of Dead Space 2, which I don't think they need to do. But I'd be curious if my feelings of Dead Space 2 would accelerate. I did the classic Avery Williams thing of I used only the plasma cutter and sold all my other weapons and and beat the game. So I shout out to any game that gives you a weapon at the beginning of the game and it makes that weapon as viable throughout the entire experience. Outside of dealing with small mobs, the plasma cutter fucking shreds, and I love that gun. The game is so fucking satisfying to play. The only issue I have with this game.
What about the I forget the actual name of it, but like the intensity thing where like if you're backtracking, it
I
might
hate it.
change certain
I absolutely fucking hate it. I think with all the backtracking in this game, with all the backtracking you do in this game, it's super annoying to want to go back and open a door that you've like Castlevania story style got the key for now, and then having to walk 10 feet. And in the old Dead Space, once you cleared an area, there was nothing to fear. In this Dead Space, the game will gauge. It's sort of like the AI director from Left 4 Dead. It will gauge your progress and spawn enemies randomly in your path. So when you backtrack. So it doesn't matter if you've cleared everything, the game will spawn enemies with your difficulty level depending on what level of enemy they spawn, how many, and what strength. So like that's super annoying. I fucking hated it. But like my only big flaw in this game is I'm not a horror guy. This game took me 10 hours long. 10 hours. I play a lot of horror games, but I'm not a horror guy. I don't like horror at all. I think I play horror games if they're really good and I can feel a sense of empowerment. But like, I don't like it. So I can only play this game for like an hour and a half at a time before I'm like, I'm done. This game is giving me nightmares. I'm done.
Hey, you know what? You're better than me because I look at this from a YouTube standpoint. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch the ending if I'm going to even interact with this game. Ain't no way
What's
I'm
wrong
putting this
with
in my
me?
console playing this. No,
The game gets
no.
the game 100% gives me nightmares. The environmental design, there is I want to go back and play the original Dead Space to remind myself how scary that game was because I also cheated the original Dead Space. I spent like $5 and got the DLC armor that makes you stronger, and I just walked through that game. I had no fear of that game because I knew no enemy could kill me.
Every walk through the game with the plasma cutter drawn at all times.
Dude, that's the reason I use the only plasma color in the first Dead Space because I'm like, I don't need to experiment. Like I'm not.
Yeah, right?
I don't feel that. But this one I did, and it was like it was actually more mechanically judged. But no, because like there's secret. Like every sound the game makes sounds like a necromorph, while also sounding at the same time as like a natural part of the environment. Like I will go into a room. Yeah, like it used to do that in the first game, but it was only sound like. But like at a certain point, you're like, this is a sound cue. There's nothing. This game is just fucking with me. I've already backtracked. No new enemies are gonna pop up here. In this game, I walk into a fucking hydroponics, and like the sound of like the sprinklers turning on sound like a necromorph screaming, and I'm like, why does it sound like this? Like when you're in 0G, every time you hit your jetpack, it sounds like a necromorph screaming. Like everything sounds like just a necromorph screaming, and it's just so.
Necromorphs all the way down.
I'm not joking. This game gave me nightmares.
Yikes.
Something is wrong with me because I play these games hours at a time. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I can only play this game in like 1 to 2 hour sittings. So I beat it. It's really fun. It's a really great game. It's probably one of the best. I will say it is the best remake. Yeah, it is the best remake. It is definitely one of the top 5. I think it's personally my favorite remake I played of all time. I'm hoping for more Dead Space from these team. I hope they remake Dead Space 3 and don't touch and just re-release Dead Space 2 with some quality of life things.
I'll play Dead Space 3 with you.
I'm gonna play that game solo like I did the original time.
God damn it.
Wait, it's multiplayer? Dead Space 3 is multiplayer?
Dead Space 2 had co-op. Had co-op.
It had forced co-op. Like EA forced them to put it in there.
Oh shit!
But outside of co-op missions that you get from playing at co-op, the game doesn't really change if you're playing as a co-op person. I beat the entire game by myself. It was fine. Yeah. What changed the way Dead Space worked was that a lot of the upgrade system was tied to like gathering materials, which you could spend real money on. So you could be in the beginning of the game and spend real money to get super OP really early. Which I've been of the mindset that like If you put microtransactions in a single player game to make someone super strong, I have no problem with that. Fucking more power to you. I don't really give a shit. If people want to spend money to like change their video game experience, just let them. Just don't balance the game. Just don't balance the game around it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, Death Street 2. I really enjoyed that game. So right now I'm going back to Returnal, and then I am going into a cave until Hogwarts Legacy comes out, so I can finesse myself a copy of that game and not support J.K. Rowling in any way, but be part of the intelligent discourse and not the internet discourse. Because the internet discourse is not happy right now.
You want help with Returnal?
Huh? I'm not going back to Returnal. It's not happening.
Oh man, that's hilarious. All right, well, hey, that's it. That's the podcast. We did it, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Press X to Start Gamers Digest. We hope you enjoyed our episode as much as we enjoyed making it. Don't forget to please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to leave a review if you are listening to the podcast in video. Nope, not video, in audio format. So that is on your phone, on your Bluetooth speaker, in your car, through your child's belly. Hey, whatever you're doing, all right? Make sure you leave a review. We greatly appreciate it. After you do that, do us a solid. Give yourself a high five. Go play some games. Wash your hands. Remember, wash your hands. And just have a good time. Yeah. Thank you again. Take care. Giggity. Oh, wait. I almost.